DIY.
DIYers, and now what is the 22nd year of 2025? I said year. It has been a chaotic turn of events overall in the music industry, but that has not stopped even some things that involve music streaming from not being a part of the headlines. What am I talking about? Specifically, there have been rumors that are starting to look even more and more true by the day that Netflix is setting themselves up to be a music streaming platform, but not just any platform, possibly the platform that could be the final nail in the coffin for Spotify.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
This story first came to my attention thanks to Sync Money account here on Instagram. They have two videos that talk about it. One talks about just the idea in general. And the second is probably going to answer a lot of your questions about, well, is this just another Spotify and how could this be a good thing for artists? I'm going to explain my thoughts as we go through it, but let's go to this first video because if Netflix does this, Daniel Ek, it's a wrap.
There's a pretty crazy prediction happening right now for 2025. If you're a musician, you're going to want to pay attention. It is rumored that Netflix is going to enter the music streaming landscape. The company has really deep pockets, as you know. They're getting even deeper after cutting back on original programming. They have 283 million subscribers across 119 different countries. If Netflix decides to do this, it will put a massive dent in Spotify's market share. Everybody's already cutting back on their subscriptions, so if you could bundle watching TV and listening to music inside of the same app, which they already have a mobile app, they're perfectly set up to house music inside that app, offer streaming. One of the only obstacles that they're going to face with this is securing the licenses from the labels. But as we know, I don't think labels are going to say no to a crazy new revenue stream by adding music streaming inside of Netflix. What do you think? Would you put your music on Netflix? If you're a listener, would you listen to it on Netflix? Because I personally would.
It's so interesting. You hear all these different folks who want to make an answer for all the music streaming issues that we deal with as artists, the payouts, the low payouts, the amount of time that you have to wait for the payouts, the lack of access to data. And people are talking about, pretty much reinventing the wheel of streaming and trying to figure out a more competitive way. Netflix is different. Netflix is different in their position in that they already have a successful model. Netflix is different also because in a lot of ways, the way that Netflix became a profitable business is that they had to figure out a way to not have to pay ridiculous prices to some of these movie studios to license their movies. So to have TV shows and movies on Netflix at one point in time, they were paying out the pocket crazy, so they weren't able to profit. Guess who else was in that position at one point in time? Spotify. Spotify was in a place where in order to have access to the Taylor Swifts and all the different artists that are out here, they had to license the music during an agreement with these labels. Now, Netflix couldn't turn a profit until they were able to get into the game of podcasting. When they got into podcasting, they had, what's my guy, Joe Rogan, like they were able to flip some kind of a profit because of that. Netflix understands streaming. Netflix understands it probably just as good, if not better, than Spotify. Look at their profits. So this does present an interesting thing where if I was Daniel Ek, I'd be pretty damn nervous because the headlines over the last year has been ridiculous. But like many artists, I had questions about, well, if it's just going to be another competitor that pays 0.003, like, whoopee. Here's where things get effing interesting, and it's still on the same page of Sync Money. Check this video out and see if this doesn't change your perspective on it, because this shit right here.
Netflix is planning on rolling out their own music streaming service, and here's how it's going to be different from Spotify. Netflix's music streaming service would be based on an acquisition model, just like they do with all their series and movies that they get. So they would...
Oh, what I didn't mention to close the loop, the way that Netflix actually got the profit instead of licensing TV shows and movies is because they started creating their own original Netflix series. That's how you got Netflix movies. So basically, they'd have a director, they'd go straight to the director, have them do this movie and say, I'm going to buy the rights to this and make it a Netflix original. So then they make all the profit off of the streaming and the advertising and all the things that come with the subscriptions. All that stuff is all on them. So that's how they flip the profit. They're talking about applying this to music, and this is where it gets interesting.
Buy catalogs outright, meaning they wouldn't have to pay royalties. But this actually could be better for independent musicians, and here's why. Imagine this, you're an independent artist, you make 5 to 8 songs, and Netflix comes to you and says, we're gonna pay you a couple $100,000 to own those songs outright.
Think about that for a second. I see some of you already like, hell no, it's the same situation. What he's saying is there are artists out here, whether you agree with it or not, that are making music. Nick D is a successful independent artist right now that said straight up in the interview that we had with him, he said, I'm making this catalog and I love this music, but I have plans to sell this catalog for 7 figures. And he very well will get that because he already has proof of concept. He already has a fan base. And also, he's the person that produces music on a regular basis. For some people, your music is your baby. Music is my baby to a certain degree as well. But I do understand the opportunity where, say it's a 10-year deal where they're able to take this one project and then funnel it into, take the license and pay you out $200,000. Let's just throw a number out there. And then they're able to utilize that into their movies, into their films and TV shows. And then that way they're making their money in that way and having to not necessarily go to the sync companies that they do traditionally. You could literally make music with the intent of having that part of your catalog sold. It's too interesting enough to be ignored.
Instead of worrying about having to create content to make the songs popular and go promote the songs yourself, Netflix is incentivized to go promote your music because they now own it. And because it's not an advance on royalties like if you were to sign to a major label, you could go back to Netflix year over year and say, give me a couple 100,000, 300, 500,000, whatever it is for a set amount of songs, which gives you a stable lifestyle. You get enough money to support your life and keep creating music. Plus, you get to keep all the money for your merchandise, your touring, all that stuff is still owned all by you. I guarantee you there are hundreds of thousands of independent artists who would do that deal with Netflix today.
Yeah, I'm one of them. We can make more songs. We can make more music. We can make more songs. 200G for 8 songs. Bay T, we talking right now. 200. These are just actually right now still rumored, right? These are just numbers they're throwing out there. Everybody wouldn't have the same deal. But just think about that for a second. They're finding a way to get their hands in multiple industries at the same time. I think that in one way they're getting their hands in the sync opportunities, which you already have, right? They have relationships with companies that go find producers that and artists that make music. They broker the deals. They get the music to Netflix that Netflix hires them for. Then Netflix puts it already into the movies and film. Okay, that's one business. Another business is streaming, because if you have a platform that gives you access to independent artists all over, you're also building a catalog that you have the opportunity to engage with and say, hey, what's the situation with this song? We see the analytics. We see the data with it. We want to pay you $100,000 for a song that you did 10 years ago. Now, if we're talking about streaming, it may take you a whole lot more time than you're probably even making music for some of these songs to make the amount that they would pay you flat out. I mean, you would have to see the details of the deal for sure, but this is something to where it's like, if you're an independent artist, if you're an up and coming artist, you ain't got shit to worry about. This is a hobby, and that's okay. If you're an independent artist in the music business, you don't look at this and look the other way. You have a conversation, because think about a catalog that may not necessarily be generating a lot of plays right now. Just think about your limitations that you may have to promote that project because you don't have a huge infrastructure. Netflix comes in and they buy this one individual project from you for the rights to it. Now, how long those rights are for, that's something that I would be more interested in. It has way too many benefits that it's sounding like right now. How does Spotify even compete with that? It feels like the last straw. That feels like the last nail in the coffin.
Netflix is planning on rolling.
That's insane. So I do come with a little hesitation. The idea definitely piqued my interest. The idea of them combining all these different efforts. Another business I forgot about is the business of beat selling. Why then would you want to upload your music to a beat store when you know that uploading your music to a Netflix music streaming service gives you an opportunity not just at getting your beats streamed, but also Netflix may be watching and hitting you up for sync opportunities in, the next season of You. So I'll tell you this, it's a lot more than Spotify's willing to do for you right now, but you ain't took your shit down from there.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
Somebody uncomfortable. DeMizza added a little bit of something to this, and I think this is good context because we got to still understand that we're dealing with greedy-ass companies. Greedy-ass companies going to be greedy-ass companies without a doubt. This is not even a video that I wanted. It was this video, right? So actually, no, let's go back to this video. Let's see what he has to say about it because he always gives some great insight about things to look out for because he is absolutely an advocate for independent artists. Check it out.
Okay, I don't know if you saw Sync Money's post, but there's a rumor floating around that Netflix might get into the music streaming business. Now, if they do, I sure hope to God they're better to independent artists and, than Spotify is. I mean, especially like with this artist-centric deal that Lucian Grange and Universal's trying to push onto Amazon. I mean, an artist that gets less than 1,000 streams within a year span, they don't roll it over, they don't pay you, and it goes into the record company pools. It sucks, and Netflix always seemed like a better company, a better run company, and you don't hear about them, screwing over the entertainment industry. So I hope to God that works. There is another rumor floating around that Facebook is now the data center for TikTok.
Yeah, we'll talk about that another day. Interesting, right? Interesting. So to get a little bit more context about where the rumors are coming from, they're not coming out of nowhere. Here you have a gentleman that wrote an article here on Hypebot. His name is Bruce Houghton. He's a veteran of the music industry, known as the founder of Skyline Artist Agency and editor of the influential Hypebot blog. With decades of experience, he's a senior advisor at Bands in Town and a professor at Berklee College of Music, where he teaches touring 101. His insights into the future of music emphasize artists' independence, fan data ownership, and adapting to an ever-changing digital landscape. He's the one that has been making this rumor, and matter of fact, it's been around for some time. It seems now that it's picking up steam because people are seeing the unique position that Netflix would be in by choosing to engage in such a business. Now, the article here says, we have asked a few of our favorite new music industry pros to help us identify trends that will drive the music industry this year. And, it was not him. It was Bobby Owsinski. Okay, I thought it was the other gentleman. Offered a bold prediction. So this is Bobby's, not the other gentleman I told you about. But yeah, his bio is important because he wrote this article. Bobby says, I believe that Netflix will enter the music streaming business in 2025. The company has deep pockets that are even deeper now that it's cut back on original programming and 283 million subscribers across 190 countries. A bundle that includes music would put a serious dent in Spotify's market share, as many streaming customers have begun to cut back on the number of services that they subscribe to. It would also give current Netflix users another reason to continue their subscription with the company and drop another competitor's service instead. Netflix already has a mobile app and the infrastructure to easily support music. Think about that. They already have the things that a lot of these startups are still trying to get finance for. An app, you know what I'm saying? Like a whole infrastructure there. They already have that. And it's successful. They said the company would have to secure licenses from record labels, but I doubt that any label would turn away or turn down an offer of another revenue stream from such a major player in the business. I hope this happens. I hope this happens not because I trust Netflix, not because I think that it's going to be the greatest thing ever, but because there needs to be a shakeup. There needs to be a shakeup. There needs to be a shakeup. I don't have time to listen to nobody up here who is used to the same shit that it's been for the last 20 odd years telling me that, oh, it's just going to be, I'm not trying to hear your negativity. I'm trying to see this shit switch up. That's why we've been making this content. If you've been watching here and you ain't learned shit, take your ass out of here. This is the wrong place for you. This is the wrong motherfucking place for you. If you ain't got it by now, we with the destruction. Back to the story though. My guy DeMizza also reports that Netflix is raising their prices after having one of their record-breaking sales years. That already tells you what game they're in, capitalism. So I give you this information with a bit of hesitation because I know that they're going to still find a way to screw over artists. This is just the game. That's how they do it. Check it out.
News, CNN reporting that Netflix had its biggest subscriber jump ever. And how is Netflix celebrating this? They're raising prices.
Damn.
Oh, you gotta love these corporations. Oh my God. Not to change subjects, but this morning when I was talking about, CIA and freaking conspiracy theories and everything, and how conspiracy theories are slowly becoming fact, and there aren't any more left. I mean, the government killed JFK and we got it freaking you up.
You leave the Miz alone. Even though he do kind of favor Robert De Niro just a little bit.
Like, what more do you want? I mean, the government actually, through the Freedom of Information Act, if you go on the CIA.gov website and go through their, releases and stuff, I mean, they literally tell you everything. I mean, they talk about remote viewing, they talk about psychic capabilities, they talk about gravity manipulation. I mean, and literally put the schematics there and show you, even how to, float through dimensions and stuff. I know it sounds crazy, but it's literally right there on the government website. It's just these companies and other factions within the government spin it through social media and all of this other stuff. I mean, a lot of the media is designed to keep us at each other so that we don't look at the people that are controlling the system. And that's just what you have to think about. Not to get super deep, but just think about it. The narrative and what is actually happening. The narrative for so long is there's no such thing as aliens. There's no such...
Okay, he going left. But the point I'm... I wouldn't expect. I saw the headline. I heard the first few seconds of this, and I was like, "Oh yeah, he about to cook up. He going some other shit." Shout out to the mess. You go watch the video if you're interested in getting deeper into that rabbit hole. I'm just talking about Netflix having a record-breaking subscriber year, and they raise their prices. Shout out to him, though. That's crazy. That's tight shit. Tight shit. You got to have mentors. DIYers. This is interesting. I just highlighted someone who just said you would have to have an opportunity. You would have an opportunity here where Netflix is in a position because of how up they are financially to pay you in a way that you've never experienced in 20 years on music streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, whatever. Unless you've been a 10 percentile, 4 percentile, 5 percentile type of artist. They can put themselves in a position where they don't need. So the thing about it, I think that is really interesting. In order to be a successful music streaming platform, and you're only a music streaming platform, you need licenses from all these major labels and all these different things. Netflix doesn't need those licenses. First of all, they're going to attract the best of the crop in independence. Second of all, there are artists who will try to get out of their deal so they can broker something independently with them. Spotify tried to do this. Guess what? The music industry and the powers that be muscled them out of it and threatened litigation.
FBI, open up!
You ain't gonna bully Netflix, though. Netflix is built different. Netflix said, I wish a mother effer would. So this is what makes it interesting. I saw Now say something along the lines of, what if they just combine with the other music streaming platforms? I think it'll be interesting, but the thing about it is that that's all that they offer is music streaming. I think that if they're in a position where they have access to the best artists, the best music, the best instrumentals, the best producers, and we already know, like, as DIYers, let's be honest.
DIY.
We are the ones that are making the best music right now. I don't care what the numbers say, because that's a product of great marketing. I don't care what your television says, because it is literally there to entertain you and lie to you at times. The best music is being made right now independently. It is being made by folks who are not afraid to take risk because they don't have the responsibility of delivering to a fan base that they've made up in their mind has these expectations. The most creative ideas are happening independently. So Netflix, I believe, can still find success, a lot of success, by having this service be open and then saying whoever wants it, wants it. I'm willing to bet, though, with the amount of jobs being cut at all these labels, they won't have nearly the fight that Spotify had to go through to secure these licenses at all. I think that Netflix would have a lot of people trying to call them in order to get a part of this service, because if you know a song that is not doing well, Netflix would say, it's not doing well, but I think it's perfect for this new movie that we're doing, original movie. We'll pay you $400,000. Does that sound good? Let's do some math real quick. Let's do some real quick math before we end this off, DIYers. Let's go. Royalty, streaming, reverse calculator. All right, let's do this. Is this centered? Okay, let's do this. So let's say Netflix wanted to pay me $200,000. On Spotify, I would need 58,823,529 streams. Most independent artists most independent artists are not streaming enough money. They're not generating enough money from streaming to even pay for their subscription to DistroKid every year. It's not an exaggeration. It's not an assumption. Ben Jordan did an actual survey on it, and they're not generating enough money on streaming to even pay for the service they use to distribute their music to streaming. What you want? You want 58 million streams in order to get 200,000? Or you want to upload to a Netflix music streaming platform and let them own your music for a certain amount of time? I don't know. Those are just my thoughts, though, DIYers. You let me know what you think.
DIY.
DIYers, if you enjoyed this content, make sure that you hit the like button and maybe even consider subscribing. Come on, man. Stop being greedy. Peace.